Hello. We're meeting today a behavioral expert, Thomas Erikson, coming from Sweden, to tell us more about idiots, about psychopaths, about colors, about our personality traits we are not aware of, and how to deal with all of this. Hello, Thomas Erikson. Welcome to Romania via this interview. I hope one day you can come here in person and we can all meet you.
Thank you so much. I would love to come, and thanks for having me here.
Well, thank you for accepting our invitation and for having written these two books we're going to talk about, Surrounded by Idiots and Surrounded by Psychopaths. The second one will be published soon in Romania as well. The first one is this, with the original cover and with the colors. I'm going to ask you directly, why colors to define personality? I have prepared, as I was showing you before we started, these cards to play with a little bit later. And I'm going to ask you what this theory that you launched about the personality traits based on colors is.
Well, the basis of it is actually a well-known thing called the disc profile, which has been around for decades. So I have not invented anything. I just took this knowledge and put it in a book, which people seem to like because it's kind of useful and easy to wrap your head around what it is actually about. The colors we added because that's for a pedagogical reason. It's easier to remember a red and yellow personality instead of an high D over an I with a low C, maybe, or an ENTJ person. Sorry, ENTF. Was it ITPK? What was it?
All of
red and yellow.
You're talking about the Myers-Briggs test.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
But red and yellow is it's so easy to grasp, and that's why it's working, I think.
Well, there are 4 of them. So basically what you're saying, without reinventing the wheel, as you correctly put it, is that we all are part of these 4 traits. So green, red, blue, and yellow. Each one of us is a color. Can you define the traits of green, for instance, just for our audience to know exactly what we are talking about? And then the basis behind it, why is somebody green?
Why is somebody green? That's the hard question to understand. Why are we the way we are? Well, to begin with, the disc profile is based on 2 axes. You have introversion, extroversion. And then you have task orientation versus, let's say, people orientation, let's call it, or relationship orientation. And you get this 2x2 matrix, and each and every color symbolizes each and every of these four squares. And to begin with, because people who are watching this is probably thinking, there's got to be more than 4 types of personalities, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, because you can combine the colors, obviously. But you know, to understand the combinations, it's good to understand the basics. And the green ones, that's the introvert, relation-oriented person, which is calm, very friendly, looking for stability, very good listener. They actually hear what you say, and they will remember what you said, because especially if it was a bad thing, especially if it was something bad about the green person, that's going to be filed on shelf 1A for, eternity. The opposite to the green color is the red color, which is a task-oriented person who is also extrovert, meaning extremely fast, extremely decisive, competitive, goal-oriented, somewhat aggressive, the green ones might think. The red people have a really low tolerance for slowness, let's say. They like to have a high pace in everything. The other extroverted profile is the yellow one, who are extrovert and people-oriented. So they are also result-focused as the red ones, but in a much more nice way. A lot of smiles, good communicators, excellent with words, very talkative, positive, charming, very creative. They solve problems you haven't even heard of. You can take something to a yellow person and say, I have a problem here, how would you solve it? And they're going to do something like, blah, 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 and there it is, and you're going to say, wow, how did you do it? I don't know. But now I got a new idea, So they are kind of like this all the time. And the opposite to the yellow person is the blue one, the analysts, the accountant, the engineer, the tax sheriff, maybe, the scientist who is introvert and task-oriented, which means they are into details, facts, proof. Can you prove what you just said? Is there a science behind this?
Now, that was exactly what I was about to ask you.
Okay.
Also because you're dressed in blue. No, I'm joking. I was just thinking that maybe blue is the warmest color, and that all this is a cliche that people who are very serious and task-oriented are very strong and mean somehow, and not very good communicators, as you said, the opposite of yellow. Now, when reading your book, I suppose each one of us has this feeling of who am I and why should I be defined by a color? And how am I going to make sense of all of this, especially since the title of your book is so incisive, surrounded by idiots. So that makes all of us idiots, right? Because...
Yes, well, we are all the idiot in somebody's story, right?
Exactly. Sometimes in our story as well, which is
exactly, yes. Sometimes in our own story. Well, the thing why I came up with this title, that's actually not a coincidence, because that's based on, well, the book starts with a story. This entrepreneur, this older guy I met many years ago, he said he was surrounded by idiots, and we all had that feeling of being surrounded by. I mean, you're sitting in a meeting trying to figure people out, and when you leave the room, you think that, am I the only one who get it? You're trying to talk to your partner and make them listen, and nobody's listening to anything. And sometimes you get the sense that you actually are surrounded by idiots. So the interesting part is that some people seem to be more surrounded by idiots than others. And that's interesting. Why is that? Some people are some sort of idiot magnets. They are drawing weirdos and psychos to themselves, which is interesting. The red people are usually most surrounded by idiots. They could be very, let's say, judgmental. Yeah. So they need to pay attention, because we have the least number of reds. 9.5% of the population in the industrialized world where we live are known to be red, and the most common color is green, close to 50%.
How do you classify this? Do people declare themselves to be red or green or yellow or blue?
No, well, there's a lot of data. I mean, an American university did in 2013, I think, an assessment, and they said about 50 million analysis has been made all over the world the last 40 years. That's quite a lot. So we have plenty of data points. We have that. And statistically speaking, most people are green. That's just the most common color. And that goes for the whole globe. Doesn't matter if you're in South Korea or Romania or in New Zealand or Canada. It's the same, basically the same number. It can differ a little bit, but not very much. Green is always the biggest factor. So that is just the way it is.
So green are the most numerous, red are the least. How about blue and yellow? Are there a lot of yellows out there?
That's an equal amount. I think there's a little bit more blues than there are these yellows. An interesting fact is that in Europe, we have a little bit more blue and green, which is the introvert side. And in, let's say, the United States, they have a little bit more red and yellow, which is extrovert style. I don't think you're surprised, when I say this. I mean, the American culture is kind of, look at me, which is the yellow trait. In Europe, we are in the old world back here, where you and I live, we are a little bit more to ourselves, a little bit more backdrawn, if you know what I mean. The differences isn't huge, but you can see them at least a little bit. That's a cultural thing, I would say. Yeah,
well, but here we are in a Latin part of the world, so I suppose in Romania there would be more yellow and red. But green also, so like we're quite conservative as well. So green and blue.
Well, the thing is, you're right and wrong at the same time, because now you're talking about culture, and the culture obviously differs between Romania and Sweden. Of course, it's different countries. We have different styles and different things that is okay. But on an individual level, the statistics is the same. That is the fascinating part. You would say that you have this Latin temper. You get angry and you raise your voice, but it's a cultural thing. You wouldn't do that in Sweden because here it's seen as unpolite. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying it's good or bad or right or wrong. That's not the point. The point is it's a difference. In Sweden, even red people are kind of toned down, but they are still red, clenching their fist in their pocket saying, everything is okay, I am not angry, but they are really mad as, So that is just the way it is. But it's a culture. We have a green blanket on top of everything here in Sweden. Mm-hmm. So, you shouldn't just speak up. You shouldn't, raise your voice. Or you shouldn't point directly at people. Doing this is very rude here. Mm-hmm. Some people do it anyway. But it's a cultural thing.
Mm-hmm. Now, what color are you?
Well, that's for me to know and for you to find out. What would be your best guess so far?
I don't know. I think you would say that you are a mix, and that's my next question. True. Is it possible to be yellow and blue, red and green, or quite the opposite? Because somehow, after reading your book, I got it that you have a dominant trait. Well, going back in history, Hippocrates first said this, that there are 4 types of temperament. So sanguine, which would be yellow, choleric, which would be red, phlegmatic, which would be blue, and melancholic, which would be green. Somehow they overlap or not. But it's not possible to be choleric and phlegmatic at the same time, is it? So is it possible to have several colors? Can you be a rainbow personality, a mini rainbow personality? Not that much.
Exactly. We're missing a couple of colors there. Well, yes. The short answer is yes. Most people are some kind of combination. Why you have a trouble diagnosing me or analyzing me, that's because I have 3 colors that is kind of I 3 high bars, let's say, and 1 that I don't have anything of. There's 1 color I'm totally lacking. And that is kind of unusual. I don't know why that is. That's probably, I don't know, genetics, how I was raised. It's a combination of nature and nurture, as they say. But the thing is, only 5% of the population in the world shows in general only 1 color. 5% shows 1 color. Mm-hmm. Let's say that you're only red. My wife is only red, 100% red, just red, nothing but red. And she is super intolerant to slowness. She has no patience at all with basically anything. We have a lot of fun around this because we know each other. But the thing is, she can also act a yellow way or a green way or a blue way if necessary. That depends on her self-awareness, I would say. She understands that she can be a bit seen as a bit, like this. Her comments might be a little bit harsh, and she knows this, so she can tone herself down when needed. But in full freedom, she's going to push the pedal to the metal. That's just the way it is. And she has to push herself into the blue corner. She can do it, but she don't like to do it. Mm-hmm. I have a really high red bar as well. I should be over there. The red, no. Let's see.
Here.
Is it back? You hold it up.
It's a red card because we are during the European.
We are doing the red thing.
Yes. So, yeah.
Yes, I have a lot of red. I also have a lot of blue, which is also kind of contradictory. I also have kind of a lot of yellow. So
you would be this and this, and you're lacking green, you're saying.
I have no green whatsoever. I do apologize. I don't know what happened. But I have plenty of yellow, and which I'm mostly task-oriented, but I have the yellow factor as well, which I am showing you now a little bit, right? Because if I should be only task-oriented, let's say only blue, it's going to be, the risk for a boring interview is high. I'm going to sit looking at you like this, stone-faced. Yes, next question.
I've never had a boring interview with a writer, no matter what they write. So, well, the colors behind you are quite fetching, so they're nice.
Yeah.
Well, now my question is, how does this help us to know what color we are and what colors the others are? Because we might be tempted to play this game once we know someone, to try and pigeonhole him or her and say, oh, you're a red, so I don't want to have to do anything with you, or you're a yellow, so we might compete because I'm also a yellow. Or as I was reading in your book, an adolescent might come home and say, oh, Mom, I'm blue. What can I do? I'm doomed for life. I will have to have this profession forever.
Okay.
So what's the help in it? What's the use of it? Okay, so some might say, okay, fine. We are all green, or I don't know, we're the majority of us. And?
Yeah, so what's the use of it? The thing is it just a fun way to describe yourself and other people, or can you actually use it in an efficient way? I would say both. The book is written with a lot of humor and a lot of irony, which you obviously noticed when you read it. But the thing is, does it solve a problem? That is the key. Does it solve a problem? And in that case, what problem does it solve? Well, it solves the problem with communication.
Well, and another question, does it create a problem?
It can create a problem if you use it the wrong way. That's why I wrote the book Surrounded by Psychopaths. We can get to that because you can misuse all knowledge. I mean, knowledge is not power, it's potential power. Saying people, knowledge is power, that's just a plain lie. It's a potential power, but you have to use it the right way, the proper way. I mean, understanding other people. I mean, let's say we can talk about work. Let's talk about work for a minute. When things fall apart, when the chain sort of breaks, it's 10% because of bad routines, and then it's 90% bad communication. People misunderstand each other. They start unnecessary conflicts. Conflict isn't always bad, but it takes time to deal with, stupid conflict just because we didn't listen to each other. That's just dumb. So you can save some time there. And in order to get rid of those 90%, you have to be an excellent communicator. You have to make yourself understood, and you have to actually pay attention to other people. People are usually, that might come as a surprise to you or those who listen, but people are usually not idiots. Most people are kind of smart enough to get the hang of it, And the problem is, if you don't pay attention, if you don't listen to the people that you feel that you don't understand, you're going to end up surrounded by idiots anyway. That's just the way it is. If I'm going to get a let's say a flight ticket to Romania, I've never been there. I would love to come. So I will call my travel agency. Well, we don't do that anymore, but for the sake of argument, I will call my travel agency. Get me a ticket to Romania. I would love to go there. And they would say, no problem. But, however, from where would you like to fly? Just imagine, I say, never mind that. Don't be so problem-oriented. Just get me the ticket. Fix me the flight. How will they solve the problem? We know where you're going, but from where do you come? You need, in all kind of communication, you need 2 dots on the map. Sweden, Romania. If I went from New Zealand or from England, it's going to be a different flight. That's just the way it is. And we all understand it. So if you try to reach Romania by thinking you're in Sweden, but you're actually in Norway, that's going to mess things up. So you have to know, where are you heading, which could be another individual. Let's say I am reaching out to this green and blue guy here. He's an introvert. Okay, it's not enough to know who he is. You also have to understand who you are. If you are also green, there's one way of adapting to him. But if you're red and yellow, you have to adapt in another way. If you're green, you have to slow down. If you're red, you have to, the other way around. If you're green and you're reaching out to a blue person, you have to turn off your emotions and you have to go for facts and details. If you're red and yellow, you have to slow down extremely much. It's different kind of adaptations. And you need both. Again, this is really important. I would like to emphasize this. You need both dots on the map in order to do it really, really well. That is just the way it is. This is not something that you can learn over the lunch break. You have to go deeper into it. But when you do it, you're going to save so much time. You cannot imagine how much time you're going to say getting rid of all the miscommunication. That is the thing that people come to me and say, the last 25 years, I am saving hours and hours every week just because now I understand people and I can make myself understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great in theory, but you know, some people might argue that it's quite simplistic, and also that it can turn us into chameleons, because there is a part of manipulation in this. If you're saying, just model your personality a bit if you are talking to a green person, just to make yourself better understood. But what if you are very red and you are just, as you were saying about your wife, she's making an effort. So it's tiresome. It's a bit manipulative. Is it? No?
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. As I have written a book about manipulation. Sorry for interrupting. But the thing is, I understand. I get this question a lot. So you're absolutely onto something. However, manipulation, it depends on the intent. Mm-hmm. If you're out to fool people and trick people, that's manipulation. So there you're right. However, if you just are looking for a pleasant way of communicating and trying to reach out to people and trying to be, you know, getting together and, you know, cooperative in a cooperative manner, that's just adaptation. Mm-hmm. It's about influence. I mean, if you go to a car sales dealer, and you meet a guy who sells cars, you know what he's up to. He's going to try to make you buy a car, but it's on the table. We know this. When he brings out his personal car in the back, now that's manipulation. He had this hidden agenda. That's where the line is you should never cross. They could say, it is simplistic. Of course it's simplistic. I mean, the disc profile is a simplification of how people are wired. All methods, Myers-Briggs, the big five, you know, you can take anyone. They're all a simplification of the human mind because people are too complex. And the book is a simplification of the disc profile. And my lectures are a simplification of the book. But we have to start somewhere. We can, of course, say, I'm not going to learn any simplifications whatsoever. Well, stay in the dark. That is actually up to you.
Well, the colors are better than the darkness. I was just smiling now because I was thinking it's good that the elephant in the room is pink. So it's not part of this scheme. When you were saying that when you go to a car dealer, everything is on the table. So we're just getting this part out of the question. Yeah. Now, what happens to the people who are colorblind, metaphorically speaking? Colorblind in terms of communication, for instance?
Well, if you're not interested in other people, then you're lost. I can't help you. You have to have an interest. You have to wanting to understand better. And that's going to come when you realize you're in trouble. I mean, I met this CEO for this huge corporation here in Sweden a couple of years ago. This lady is super bright, extremely well educated, she's sharp as a knife in here. And she said, it's interesting, she said, I am 43 years of age until I realized that not everybody's thinking like I do. And I just, what was that? You haven't considered people are different? No, not really. Yeah. Okay, wow. I hardly knew where to begin, but we kind of fixed that also. But it was useless to try to train her, coach her, which I did when she was 42, because she wasn't there. She wasn't into it. She wasn't interested. She didn't pay attention. She said, just listen to me. I'm the manager here. Just, everybody should listen to me. You can do that as well. But if you really want to win people over to you, you should fine-tune your communication skills. That is just the way it is. You don't have to pretend to be somebody else. If you are red, you can be as red as you like. But if you want to reach out to the blue ones and, let's say, the green ones, which is always going to be the biggest challenge, that is just the way it is. You can tone down yourself a little bit for 1 hour or 2 hours. Then please go back to be you. If you're yellow and talking to a blue person, shut up. Use less words, don't talk too much, and then go back to be you. Otherwise, you're going to violate your personality. That's not my recommendation. But of course, we always adapt. We influence each other all the time. I mean, you're adapting to me in this conversation. I am adapting to you in this conversation. Everything is filtered through, you know, the Zoom tool here. So everything is an adaptation in one way or another. But I don't think you feel bad about it. We do
Not
it
at all.
the time.
No, I'm having fun, actually. It's a great
that's
pleasure.
great. I'm happy to hear that. Me too. This is a fascinating topic, and if I go down and order lunch, I'm gonna adapt a little bit to the situation. So we do it all the time by using the color system or any system. I picked the disc colors because it's an easy thing to grasp. It's easy to understand. I could have picked any, I guess, I don't know. But I like to draw people's attention into exploring themselves and understanding themselves, building a greater self-awareness and trying to communicate in a more efficient way. How they do it, that's actually not the point. This is just an example. But we do it all the time. What I'm looking for is to help people do it in a more, let's say, in a more conscious way. Because if you consciously adapt to people, you're going to do it in a much better way. Instead of subconsciously doing things, because then you're going to use your emotions, and sometimes they're going to fool you. They're going to trick you into bad relationships.
Well, that's a great point you made about realizing sooner or later in life, and I think we've all been there and had this epiphany, that people are not thinking like we do, or that the people's vision of life is very different. I've had this quite recently, but before as well, but it's getting stronger and stronger, this feeling that it is possible that other people don't think like you.
I know, it's a bit surreal, but it might be true still, I know. And they're wrong, obviously, of course.
No, it's not that they are wrong or right. It's just that it's so different, their way of thinking, that sometimes any kind of reconciliation or of communication becomes impossible. And I was thinking while you were saying that a yellow should shut the yellow up when talking to a blue, how long can that last? So if you make a constant effort for the sake of a greater purpose, for the sake of communication, to mold yourself after somebody else's personality, providing that the other is doing the same. For instance, the blue is honing their skills of listening or putting up with the verbosity of a yellow. Will it last? Can a couple made of a yellow and of a blue survive and be happy? Is it wishful thinking?
No, it isn't. Everything is okay. Everybody is okay. As long as they try to get along, I would say. I held this, I mean, we are in the end, hopefully, on this bloody COVID thing. But when I was traveling before it hit us, I was constantly on the road. And let's say just around Christmas 2019, it had to be. I had this big lecture this was in Norway, an evening, 1,200 people. And afterwards, two people came up to me, one man and one woman, in their, I would say, early 40s something. And they stood there, you know, a little bit trampling, and, you know, we didn't know. And I said, well, come up here afterwards. I was packing my things together. So you come up on stage here with me and say, well, but you obviously have a question. And they said, yeah, well, we was thinking, we just would like to thank you. And I said, well, happy to see you here tonight. No, it's not the point. We read your book. And one of them said, I'm really red. And the other one said, I'm really green. And they said, we have moving in and out with each other for 10 years because we kind of love each other, but it's really hard to get along because we are super different. We are kind of, you know, going in totally different directions like this. And they said, and then we read your book, and then we suddenly understood nobody is stupid. Nobody is an idiot. We are just so different. But then we understood how to express our love for each other. Now we're getting married. We're just here to say thank you. And I kind of, oh no, is this true? Oh my God, you know, wow. And I have so many of these moments. And you should see my inbox, my email inbox, people saying, we now understand our differences. My agent, who probably isn't listening to this, my literary agent.
Not yet.
No, she's yellow and her husband is blue. They also got married after reading the book. This is true story, and I have hundreds of them. And for me, that tells me maybe you don't have to take a 5-year psychology degree to actually understand quite your opposite. You can actually pay attention a little bit more. And if I can provide usable tools, I'm happy to.
So I'm coming back to the title because it's so funny. Obviously, it's a metaphor. We're not surrounded by idiots, or we are all idiots, if that's the case. Yes. What would an idiot be for a green person?
A red person.
A red person.
A red person.
And for a blue person, it would be a yellow one. Yeah. Okay.
Green people usually call red people the red devils. I've heard that several times. Oh, that's the red devil. Don't talk to him. Scary. Really unpleasant.
How about a green for a yellow and a blue for a red? Are they?
Well, the red would consider the green one. Now we are generalizing, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, but still, to keep the entertainment part.
Yes.
The red one considers usually totally green people as cowards and just lazy people who there's something you have to go around, because they never speak up. So I don't hear them. And the blue people consider yellow people suffering from mouth diarrhea, completely unserious.
Yeah.
Completely unserious. And the yellow ones, they think blue people are some sort of, robots. Lacking emotions, scary people, just stone face, talking like this every day, not very nice and not very pleasant, and of course I'm joking a little bit, but it is there. These are challenges, no doubt about it.
Is there a dominant trait, like for instance, between the blue and the green? Would a green be more submissive and accept the blue better than a red?
The green is the most submissive color of all the colors. Some methods actually call it submissive. The S in the disc stands for submissive. It doesn't stand, it stands for stability, to be honest. Some people use it as submissive, which I think is too harsh, but they are perceived that way because they don't speak up. If you ask a green person, would you like to buy a hamburger for lunch? He will say yes. And then somebody else will say, how about a salad? He's going to say yes also. And then what are you going to do? He's going to stay at the office eating, I don't know, a sandwich by himself because he can't say no. And that is just the way it is, because he is always looking for cooperation. He tries to get along with everybody. The other three colors don't do that, actually. They don't try to be friends with everybody, which the green tries to be. That's one of the green traits, which gives them a lot of headache, I would say.
But that would make green the kindest.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes. You need green in order to make the perfect team, because they will step up and take responsibility for doing the boring stuff nobody else is touching on. So you need the green ones. They are the loyal ones. They are the ones who will still, just grinding on and on when the red ones has left the building and the yellow ones is super bored and the blue ones is checking the details, and looking for problems. The green ones are still there, doing the hard work. So I'm not talking down to the green ones. I'm only saying how other people might perceive them, because that is actually your question. But you have to have all the colors. Everybody is bringing something to the table, just different things. Yeah. That sounded very politically correct, but it's true.
Well, that's true. But also the greens look like saints in your description. And I was wondering, how is it possible to have so many conflicts in the world if the majority of the population is green?
Well, the Greens don't like everything. They don't. The problem with the Greens are, well, they don't start the conflicts usually. They might be the reason behind the conflict, but the red ones, they are. I mean, Greens are conflict avert. The red ones, I wouldn't say they are into conflicts, but they don't back away. They kind of, what is it now? Let's do this, Okay, let's have a word quarrel, let's call it. The green ones might start conflicts by being passive aggressive, because it's a misconception to think they don't have opinions of their own. They have the same opinions as everybody else. They just don't tell you about it. If you say, how about, what are you going to vote for this, the next election? They will say what they think you want to hear. which is not the same thing as giving you their honest opinion, obviously.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if you push them with their back to the wall, you're going to see, if you kind of, you're going to see what's in there really. And then you will see what they really thought of. And then you might say, why didn't you tell me that? Well, you know, because they don't like quarrels. They don't like arguments. So
we've talked a lot about the Greens because the Greens are the majority. What does DISC stand for? Is it dominance, influence, stability, and compliance, actually. Okay. So influence, the influencers are the yellow ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So can we talk a bit about the other three, yellow, red, and blue, as well as we talked about the Greens, just for the people to better understand?
I'm all yours. I'll go where you go.
So let's talk about the yellow ones. Are they necessarily good communicators just because they express themselves and they like to talk?
No. Nobody's a natural. They have a natural tendency for using words in a charming way. And that works with people who likes to listen. But the problem is, let's say, the red people, they think the yellows are using too many words. Because the yellow will use their mouth to express their thoughts. In the red perspective, it's thought, action. In the yellow perspective, it's thought, talk. Thought, talk, then maybe some action, maybe. But they will probably talk more about what they will do in a moment instead of just do it. That's a huge difference. But they are charming and friendly and smiling, and they are good at, you know, patting you on the back and making you feel, ooh, like this, you know, he likes me because he said so. But if you listen to what they say, most sentences start with the word I or me, because they love to talk about themselves, and that could be overly used when it comes to the yellow part. The blue ones, they don't like it because the yellow ones are very unprecise and very blurry, you know, it's a lot of fluff, so to speak. Emotions, blues don't like emotions. They need details and facts and Excel sheets. The yellow don't have those. They hate it. So that's kind of, it goes in completely different directions.
Okay. Are the reds in conflict with the blues because they are dominant, both of them, and they like rigor and precision, and can they fight for supremacy?
Yes, absolutely. But the red ones are in conflict with everybody, including other reds. The problem is they don't care. It's just another way of communicating, having a conflict. Yeah, well, bad, sad. Well, I understand that you don't like this, but hey, you know, conflicts can also be very developing. That is just the way it is. Red people, you know, I don't even think they see it as a conflict. I had this red CEO many years ago, and he had this let's say closing talk with everybody who left the company. And one of the guys said, well, last 10 years has been mostly good. The hardest thing is that you have been angry all the time. And the red CEO said, what? I'm never angry. What do you mean? I'm never angry. I don't shout. No, and we kind of, okay. But he didn't see it like that. So, you know, it's just the way it is. I can't say it's good or bad. I only can say it's red. Right. So, yeah.
Okay. And the blues?
The blues, well, the blues are the orderly people. They are the conscientious ones. If you need somebody who will do 100%, you most likely need some blue in your organization, if we talk about work, because they will not leave any stone unturned. They will look for everything, and they are aiming for quality all the time. They need quality. We're on a deadline. Never mind that. We are on a quality chase here. So that's why they are annoying the yellow ones and the blue ones, the red ones, because they get so frustrated because it takes time. Looking for 100%, it's going to take time. So then again, it depends. Are you a scientist? Are you working in a nuclear plant? Or are you working with car sales? Where would you like the blue guy to go? That's the question. If you need super detailed focus, go for blue. If you need speed, Don't go for blue, because everybody is not good at everything. That is also a huge misconception. It's very unpopular to say you can't be anything. I mean, we've seen these inspirational coaches. You can be anything, you can do. No, you can't. That's actually not true. You can't be everything. If you are completely blue for some reason, you will probably not be the most creative artist. Okay. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm only saying it's hard to be super creative and look for new ideas if you are tracking everything in Excel.
So okay. Task is their favorite word.
Good task, and they are super conscientious, and they will never drop the ball. But you won't hear from them unless you ask them, how's it going? Well, and then you're going to get a protocol. Here it is, like this, you know.
I like that the pie that you have there. So it's like
it's a color one. It's another pie, but still, it's a
It's not like a fan here. Well, so task would be the word for blue. If we were to define each one of the personality colors by one word, what would be the word for red? Speed.
I think disc actually can be used. I mean, reds are dominant. Speed, sure, speed is good. Everything that goes fast is good. Never mind what it is, as long as it's a high speed. So, yeah, sure.
Influence is for yellow, and it would be what? Words, stories, smile. Okay.
Smiles. So, I like it. This is great. I mean, my friend, who are you? What's your name again? Oh, I like you very much. Who are you? You know, they're smiling to everybody, you know, creating this super nice environment.
So the Hollywood letters in Los Angeles should be yellow. They didn't get it right with
also somewhat narcissistic, I would say, but that's another story.
But I suppose narcissists can be red as well, or blue as well, or green as well.
It's not measured there, but it's closer to the yellowish behavior, because it's a lot about me, narcissism, self-centeredness. I'm publishing a book in 3 months here in Sweden called Surrounded by Hopefully it comes in Romanian as well. Let's see about
Surrounded by Narcissists.
Yes.
Oh, that's scary. That's quite scary, but so accurate.
Special topic. Yes, it is. Yeah.
And just to wrap this up and move to the psychopaths.
Okay. Do we have a word for the green ones and the blue ones?
Exactly.
The green
blue ones. Sorry.
I would say green ones would be friendly. I would say they are friendly.
That's nice, because the green ones have this good trait, and all the other colors are defined by bad traits. So, speed is not a bad trait.
Smiles are good traits.
Indeed. Well, with their hidden things.
If you're in a race, speed is good.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
that says more about you than about what I said.
So that's always true. So whatever you perceive is more about you, about yourself, than about the others.
True.
So that's something to keep in mind when we are trying to communicate and define communication. I love the word idiots because it's so irreverential. It's so unpolitically correct, especially to put it in a title, Surrounded by Idiots. It's a joke, but somebody might take it very seriously. A blue reading this book would be
and a blue listening to this conversation, waiting for what word will he put on the blue trait.
But we said that, task, right? So task for the blue, friend or friendship.
I didn't say task. You said task. I didn't.
If you don't accept it, I accept your opinion.
I would say details.
Details. Okay, where the devil lies.
True that.
Well. Okay then. So from
now I'm feeling a little bit bad, but you know.
Why?
For the record.
because you slandered all these colors.
Because I'm kind of bluish myself, so I didn't know. Yeah, okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the second book you wrote, and which had a great success as well, was Surrounded by Psychopaths. But that's very scary. Although I suppose it's humorous as well. Are we surrounded by psychopaths? Is this based on colors as well? What can we do if we are surrounded by psychopaths? Is there a way of protecting ourselves?
Yes, the books are connected like this. To begin with, no, we're not surrounded by psychopaths. Psychopaths make up to, let's say, 2% of the population.
Okay.
So no, we're not surrounded by psychopaths. Luckily enough, because psychopaths are a dreadful thing. That is scary. Psychopathy that's cruel. If you run into a psychopath, you better watch out, because he might completely destroy you. Totally ruin you, your economy, your mental health, your life. He might make you kill yourself. Psychopathy is a serious matter. The reason I wrote it is because people use the first book for the wrong reasons. You mentioned manipulation before. And specifically, I mean, I have received a lot of emails, but some emails at least, 10 or 15 emails from people saying, I read your book, Surrounded by Idiots, it's fascinating. Now, please help me to understand how to use other people using this method. And I went, use other people. That is actually not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for cooperation and openness and better communication grounds. So then I started to looking into manipulation as a feature, and I fell backwards straight into psychopathy, and it scared the hell out of me. I have to admit this. That scared me because I was like everybody else. I said to myself, well, Hitler, Hannibal Lecter, psychopaths, serial killers, yeah. But that's not the thing. There are those as well. But psychopaths are walking around. They are walking the streets just like you and I. They look like you and I. They don't think like you and I. They are looking for opportunities. They are predators. It sounds dramatic. I understand this, but it is dramatic. And we should never underestimate the risk for ourselves if we actually run into a psychopath, because he will sugarcoat you, he will gaslight you. It's usually a he, for different reasons related to genetics. He will love bomb you and make you feel like a princess in your case, or a queen, put on a pedestal, and you will feel, wow, finally my soulmate. He will move in with you in 7 days, and you will think, how lucky am I? And then when he's got you like this, if you know what I mean, it could of course be a woman, but it's most often a man. Then he will start to move you in that direction because you have something that he likes. You have something that he wants. It could be sex, it could be money, it could be fame, it could be anything. But if you have something that he wants, he will try to take it from you. And the question,
the question is why?
Why not? He's a predator. Why does a hyena eat a baby on the prairie if you leave your child behind? Because that's what hyenas do. That's just the way the nature created them. I don't know why. This is in their brain. Brain scans has taught us that they are born with this deficit. It's not a mental illness. It's not a disease. It's a psychological disorder. It's a personality disorder. It cannot be cured. It cannot be treated. They are lacking certain parts in the amygdala, which is controlling the emotional center of the brain. Figuratively, that was a really short version. But anyways, if a neuroscientist see this, he would say, well, it's actually more complex than that. And that is, of course, true. But it is, you can see it on a brain scan. You can actually see it there. So you can't do anything about it. It's like saying to a kitten or a cat, don't chase mice. Why wouldn't it? Because I'm a cat. I chase mice. That's what I do.
But in nature, there's always a biological reason behind it. It's the survival of the species. So a cat is set up to do this because it has to feed itself, to feed the kittens. But in real life, when you were saying that, in human life, when you were saying that a predator wants something from the victim, if the victim is willing, so the predator has the victim already, why should he destroy the victim as well after using it or exploiting it or using that gift that he wants or that he envies? And that's one thing. And the other thing is what to make about the fact that sometimes psychopaths express emotions and they are not faked. So, for instance, they cry when they watch romantic movies, or when their favorite football team scores, or they seem to feel and to show that feeling. Is that something contradictory?
That's two questions. Let's begin with the last one. If you remember the previous one, let's begin with the last one. Psychopaths feel things, yes, but they are not empathic. They don't feel empathy for you and me. They don't care about us. They are really good actors. They can play. They can pretend they feel this and that. I would say that when psychopaths cry, I would go look for real tears. Are there actually tears in your eyes? I'm not so sure. I have seen examples where they can fake a huge cry out, huge, I'm so frustrated, and red face, and they can, do this and everything. But when you give them what they want, they're going to sort of come back to themselves so quickly that you might think this is really strange, because they can imitate, they can learn to show emotions and feelings, but they don't feel the same thing as you and I. This we know by extensive research from 50 years back in time. This is not a joke. I have met several women who has been married to male psychopaths, and they say, he played me so good, I couldn't imagine. It took me years and years to understand what he actually did to me. And you actually said that the first question was, why do they ruin the victims?
Their victims, well, if they use them, actually.
Well,
so why?
If you get used so much, you're going to fall apart eventually. If you get used, these are some sort of mental vampires. They will they will empty your wallet. They will isolate you from everybody that you know and you love because they need you in control. They will isolate you from your working mates. They will control your actions. They will control your emotions. They will use you physically. They will use your body. Some of them are physically abusive. They could be, violent. Use violence. A lot of psychopaths do that. Not all of them. The smart ones doesn't have to. They can talk you into whatever. They can make you start acquaintances with people that you actually are afraid of. And when you get too much abuse, you will fall apart. This is well known from extensive psychological research, and there they don't say, or they can say, I will try to destroy you, and they will, but that is going to be the outcome. I heard this example a couple of years ago, very interesting. It's not a long story. This lady here, she was together with this young guy. I think they were not even in their 30s, 25, 28, something. They have been together, and she broke up with him because you don't pay attention to me. I don't think you love me. I'm going for something better in my life. And then he said, give me a second chance. And she said, okay. And then he turned into the perfect boyfriend. He did everything. He waited for her after her work. He picked her up. They went to dinners. He bought her everything, flowers. He told her he loved her. He was the perfect gentleman. I mean, he was top notch. Everything was 100%. He introduced her to good people, and she introduced him to her family, and everybody liked him. He was so attentive, paid attention to everything. And on where they were celebrating 1 year as a couple, he broke up with her. And do you know what he said? He said, this is a true story. He said, I have been playing you all the time. I just wanted to see if I could fool you. And that I did. Bye-bye. You don't break up with me, he said. I break up with you. How do you think she felt afterwards?
Well, that's a true psychopath. And
that is so scary. I'm getting chills every time I tell this story. It's a true story, because I met the lady I met her several years back, and she said, it took me 5 years to recover. He mentally crushed me. I can't trust anybody these days. How are you going to live your life if you can't trust people?
So basically the aim of the psychopath is to win, no matter the cost.
Well, to take what he needs. He sees himself as on top of the food chain. He's the winner. He's the shark. He's the wolf. I'm the predator here. They don't consider themselves psychopaths, but I am the winner. And I mean, what I like to do, what I discuss in the book is that you have to protect yourself. And you can use the 4 colors to build your self-awareness. Because when you understand your combination of colors, red, yellow, green, blue, then you also know your weaknesses. Because psychopaths are looking for your weak spots. That's when they're going to force in the knife and twist it around a little bit. So if you don't understand your weaknesses, he will see them and use you. So therefore, you have to know yourself to protect yourself. You don't have to go around and be scared of psychopaths, because there are not so many of them, but there's too many of them. I mean, if we have 7 billion people on the planet, that makes up for, what is it, 7 billion, 350 million psychopaths. I mean,
wow.
That's a lot of people.
Yes.
No, sorry, 140. So I can't do the math here. 140 million. 2%.
It's still huge.
Still huge. It's still huge. It's like going into the traffic, Traffic is dangerous, in the capital or Romania, there's a lot of cars and people are, making their horn. It's a heavy traffic. But you don't stay at home. You just pay attention, That's what I'm aiming for in the book. So pay attention.
Yeah. So just to have a conclusion about this, it's fascinating, the talk, but unfortunately we are running out of time. So we'll keep it for the next time. And after you publish the 3rd book, you must come to Bucharest to talk about all this in person.
I would happy to do that.
What would be the weakness of each color that a psychopath would target? For instance, a red. How can a red protect himself or herself?
Well, the red's weaknesses are that they don't pay attention to details. They are so fast, they miss the crucial parts. So the psychopaths can sort of play in the face of the red person, and the red person is just going to, you go away and do that. Because they never go back and check things up because they don't have the time. So the psychopaths can do a lot of nasty stuff to the red ones until the red one is actually paying attention. In the yellow part, for the yellow factor, that's really easy. That's isolation. Social isolation is the worst thing that can happen to a yellow person because they are extremely sociable. They love to be in the center of things. They love to chat with people. They love to have as many people around them as possible. So if you isolate them from their friends, they're going to fall apart. The green ones, very simple. Raise your voice. Start yelling at them. Start conflicts, and they will back away because they hate conflicts. It scares the living life out of them. And the blue ones, they are probably the toughest ones to manipulate because they are so attentive to everything. They note everything. They see everything. They hear everything. They might not tell you, but they see it. You have to challenge them in a smart way. You have to make them look like idiots. Right? You have to make everybody else think the blue one is messing things up by producing problems and faults and so on and so forth. Like if they could be, if you can confuse them, missing meetings, looking sloppy, these things, it's going to make them really insecure. But it's going to take a while because they will remember what you told them. If you said, I'm going to go out with Mary, and then they come back and say, I was with Barry, and they say, no, you said Mary, no, I said Barry, no, you didn't. They will know. You can't trick a blue person very easily because they will remember. They have an annoyingly good memory.
So that would mean that the blue ones are the best candidates for being psychopaths because they are so attentive.
You can't measure psychopathy in this system. Totally different things. I'm crystal clear on that one.
Yeah.
The ones who usually are called psychopaths are the red ones because they can yell at you at 11 o'clock and at 12 they can say, how about lunch? You kind of, whoa, what a psychopath. He hated me an hour ago. No, he didn't. He just was mad because you messed things up. That's a task thing. It's nothing to do with you as a person.
You know what I'm thinking? If the psychopaths are one of these colors as well. For instance, if there's a psychopath who is red, he will have the failures of the reds, right? So his strength would be his weakness, or the other way around. Because if we mix the two books, that means that all people, including the psychopaths, belong to one of these four categories. So can we detect them better or manipulate them in terms of protecting ourselves from them better if we know what color they are?
It's a really good question. I guess if a psychopath filled in the disc form, something would come out. I have met, let's see, 3 people that I know would score really high on a psychopathy checklist. I cannot tell you what colors they had. I cannot say this because, as I said to begin with, they are not wired like you and I. It's really hard to tell. And they will never do something subconsciously. They always have a plan for everything. If they can trick the guy who's selling hot dogs out there on the street, they will do it just because it's fun. We are you familiar with the word smorgasbord?
Yes.
It's the only Swedish word that is reached out in the world. It's like, a sort of big buffet with a lot of courses. Other people are a smorgasbord for the psychopaths. We all have something they might want, and they will try to take it. That is just the way they are wired. So they will imitate whatever it takes in order to get it from you. Again, it sounds dramatic, I know, but it is dramatic at the same time.
Well,
we should not be naive when it comes to these things.
Yes, so naive is a good word to talk about this.
It's not a virtue to be naive. Women who write to psychopaths behind bars, they are plain stupid. They cannot, well, with me, he's going to change. No, he's not going to change. He will use you to get out, possibly, and make you feed him for a year. And then he might put you in the back of his trunk, in the trunk of his car. You cannot change them. That is naive. It's not a virtue to be naive. You have to pay attention. You have to be sort of active. You cannot just sit there and,
passive.
You can't be sleeping while you sort of live in the world. You have to be there. You have to pay attention. That's just the way it is.
Well, of course, out there in the real world, the danger is much more insidious because not all psychopaths are in jail, or not all of them are criminals.
Most of them are not in jail, not behind bars. Some of them are CEOs of the biggest companies. Some of them are leading governments on in this world. So
yeah. Well, that reminds me that while I was coming here to have this interview with you, something was playing in my mind, and that was Annie Lennox's song, actually Eurythmics, Sweet Dreams. Some of them want to use you, some of them want to be used by you, and some of them want to abuse you, and some of them want to be abused. And that's what rules the world, I think, the fact that some are victims and some are psychopaths, and it's useful to be able to make a distinction between the two and not to become a victim yourself, provided that you're not a psychopath.
True.
Well, so thank you so much for this enlightening interview about how not to be an idiot, about how to know your colors, and how to live life with flying colors.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Among the idiots and the psychopaths. And I'll keep this fan to remind me, yes, because it's very hot in Bucharest nowadays.
Yes,
just I'm
going to keep this one. So.
A pie is better than a fan. Always.
A pie is also good. That's tasty. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Thomas Erikson, and see you soon, I hope.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for accepting our invitation. And we are waiting for you to come here to Bucharest and tell us more.
I would love to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.